Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Nekketsu New Records, grabbing the Nekketsu High School Gold Medal Achievement. This is to beat the game using the Nekketsu team. So what you want to do is want to start up the game, and then we're going to get past all of the title screen and opening intro and all of that stuff. Once you get to the first menu, don't worry about the Japanese, just keep hitting the B button to keep everything at the default. Basically, you want to keep it on normal mode, one player, and all of the events in the normal order. After hitting yes, you're going to have to choose your team. You want to make sure you choose the topmost team, which is going to be the Nekketsu team, and then we're going to get to the rundown on the first event, which is the 400-meter hurdles. For our character, we're just going to pretty much just stick to Kunio for the entire run, just to keep things simple. Make sure you pick him. On this screen, you want to make sure you pick the left option, which is yes, which should allow you to shop. Walk over to the left and then head into the sports item shop. You should have 5 gold medals to start the game out with. What you want to do is want to make sure you pick the first option, which is to enter the shop, and you want to buy the thing that costs 2 gold medals. So make sure you drop the cash on that and then pick the bottommost option to leave the store. And this will give you an ability which should help you out on the first event. So make sure you head through the exit in order to start the event. The item we bought is going to be the Hurricane Kick. To use it, all you have to do is just jump and it should automatically do the attack. So basically what you want to do is you want to try to sprint forward and keep jumping over the hurdles, and you basically just want to use the Hurricane Kick in order to knock your opponent out, and you could pretty much do this for the entire race since we have an automatic Hurricane Kick thanks to the power-up we just bought. You kind of want to time it. You definitely don't want to spam the Hurricane Kick. You want to definitely use it whenever the opponent is right next to you, so you can obviously knock him out, and you also want to use it to smash any of the tall hurdles, and if your opponent happens to throw any of the hurdles your direction, you also want to use it to deflect any of the said debris. So this first race should be pretty much a cakewalk. However, you can still lose if you get a little too careless. So make sure you always keep an eye on your opponent. And just like any of the other Kunio-kun games, you can take advantage of the in-game save system, and you can make a save and then reload back from it if you find yourself in a pinch where you let the opponent get too far ahead of you. You can also try to knock your opponent out, which should also automatically give you the win. However, I just recommend just going for the finish line, since that's probably a lot easier since you don't need to stop and try to attack him, and trying to do that might also knock them into the lead, which is something we don't want. So after we finish up the first heat, we are going to have heat 2, pretty much the same thing. The opponents are going to be random, so you might have stronger opponents or weaker opponents depending on the RNG. With a weaker opponent, you should have an easier time of knocking them out. However, we are just going to go straight for the finish. So with the automatic Hurricane Kick, we should be able to manage that A-OK against any opponents as long as we are minding our space and only using the Hurricane Kick to time an attack or a deflection. So every race should take about just over 50 seconds or so, a little longer if you do plan on taking advantage of the save system, which I do recommend doing. Make sure you make a save every time you build a significant enough lead, and make sure you reload from the save every time you make a mistake, like the opponent hitting you with a hurdle, or if you happen to miss the timing on one of the Hurricane Kicks, or if you happen to collide into any one of the hurdles. Once you wrap up Heat 2, it's time to move on to the final heat, which is going to be Heat 3, where we are going to race the final team. And again, we're just going to keep up with our same strategy of spamming the Hurricane Kick. It's not going to matter how strong or good the opponent's stats are. You can just pretty much use this move to guarantee yourself the win. Keep in mind, it's not an absolute cakewalk. You do have to make sure you time it a bit in order to get those deflections off, especially if you get a throw-heavy opponent. Also, you want to mind what type of hurdle you're going after. If you don't need to jump, make sure you don't. Just run underneath the hurdle, and you should get past it A-OK. Every time you jump, you are automatically going to throw out the kick, so you give up your ability to just jump like normal when doing this. So make sure you keep that in mind. Don't overuse the move too much. Just make sure you use it enough to get the advantage, and always, always, always take advantage of the save system because it is your best friend in these kind of situations. So just punch it to the finish line. Once you beat all 3 teams, you should be guaranteed the first place as well as the best performance award, which is going to give you the first bonus medal. So you should get 15 gold medals for placing first, and then you should get 5 bonus medals if you were the top performer. Once we get our medals, it's time to start the second event, which is going to be the hammer throw golf. What you want to do is want to stick with Kunio, and then what you want to do is want to make sure you hit yes on this screen in order to use the shop. This is going to be the hardest mini game in the entire collection. However, thanks to the power-ups, we can make this a lot easier. So head into the same shop, and this time you want to make sure you buy both of the gold power-ups, the one that costs 4 and the one that costs 10. The first power up is going to basically allow us to have an automatic spin, so we don't need to tap the button in order to throw the hammer. And the second power up is going to give us a rocket boost for our first 3 throws. So once you have both of those power ups bought, it's time to head to the left and it's time to start the event. So thanks to the 2 power-ups, our 3 first shots are going to be pretty much done for us. So all you have to do is just hit the button and then it should auto-charge to full power. And thanks to the rocket boost, it should go a really far distance and also not land in any hazards. So it should completely avoid any water or rough terrain and it should always land in the green. So just shoot off your first 3 throws, which should pretty much clear a majority of the course. Then, right before your 4th throw, I highly recommend making a save here, which is going to come in handy later in case we do run into any trouble with the opponent's rounds. So make sure you make a save, and then on throw 4, we are going to switch back to just the hammer. However, since we are so close to the finish and we still have the auto spin ability on, it should go in on the 4th throw, giving us a hole in 4. So after that, we're going to have to watch the opponent go. So make sure you keep an eye on your opponent and make sure that they score more shots than you. So if they score anything over 4, you should be good for winning the event. If they somehow miraculously score in under 4, what you want to do is want to make sure you reload from that save you made before the last shot, and that way when you get to your opponent's turn, the RNG can switch them out for someone else if you didn't get something in your favor. So that should be another first place finish with another set of top performer, which is going to give us another 20 gold medals, and we can move on to event number 3, which is going to be the swim race. Again, we are just going to pick Kunio just for the sake of simplicity. It's also good practice to beat this game with just one character, since the other miscellaneous achievement is going to require us to do so, and every single achievement in the NES version, that is Crash and the Boys, is also going to require us to beat the game with just one character. So before you start the next event, head into the shop and buy the power-up that costs 15 gold medals. This is going to give us the ability to have piranhas randomly attack our opponents during the race. Start up the event, and our goal for this event is to basically try to drown your opponent, since 3 minutes is going to be a ton of time, and we want to make sure we get this done as quick as possible, and we also want to try our best to preserve our health bar. The random piranhas are going to come in handy, however, they aren't going to come as frequently as you would like them to, so you definitely want to just play the game like normal. I recommend trying to just keep an eye on your opponent and pretty much react to whatever they are going to do. If they take a dip into the water, make sure you dive down to anticipate them, and once they get within your hit range, just make sure you spam kicks. Make sure that if they are about to jump, make sure you take a dive down to dodge them, and you basically want to repeat this strategy for all 3 fights. Be very mindful of your oxygen. Always try to surface for air, since the fastest way of losing your health is drowning, so make sure you don't get too overzealous on the actual offense. Make sure you are trying to keep as much oxygen as you can, so you don't lose any health, since you do need to make sure you keep your health going in to the later events. So just try your best to micromanage these little things. It's a pretty tricky minigame when you first play. However, once you get to the little quirks down, you should be able to knock out every opponent a-okay. It's going to take quite a bit of patience, because you do kind of have to spot out what your opponent is going to do. Highly recommend using the save system in this event. It's going to help out a bunch, and then we should be able to get this down a-okay. Just like the hurdles, it's going to be 3 heats, so you have to make sure you keep this up the best you can. Make sure you take advantage of any openings that you spot out, and always, always, always make sure you try your best not to drown yourself. When it comes to your best means of attack, it's actually easier to have your opponent drown themselves rather than actually engage them. So you always want to keep an eye on where they're surfacing. If they are surfacing on their side, what you want to do is want to make sure you jump over to jump on top of them as they're coming up. If they're trying to come up from underneath you, you want to time it where as they are about to grab your legs, you want to jump straight up, and that way when they do surface, you can land on top of them And keeping them in the water is going to be a way more efficient way of dealing with their health bar rather than actually engaging them with punching or kicking. And the piranhas is just going to be icing that will help you out with keeping them in the water. So once we get rid of our first two opponents, it's time to move on to Heat 3. Once again, stat-wise, it shouldn't matter too much. If you have an opponent that has more health, it's just going to take longer, and you do have to be a little more cognizant with your risk-taking. Try your best not to go underwater the best you can unless they are swimming towards you. Just take advantage of our jumping and keeping them under the water. If you can't get the timing down right, you can try your best to go underwater and try to engage them, but remember it's more efficient to drown them rather than actually fight them. This game mode is going to be easier than the other two. However, you are going to need to keep patience and vigilance in mind. You have to kind of wait out and spot whenever the opponent is vulnerable. As for the power up in the Piranha, it's not going to be as game breaking as the other two mini games' power ups, but it does help out a bit, especially if you are new to the game. Keep in mind any gold medals that you do spend on power-ups will subtract from your total number of gold medals, which is going to be the thing that decides the final winner of the meet. So you definitely want to pick and choose what events that you want to use power-ups in. So if you don't need the piranhas in this event, this is a power-up I definitely do recommend skipping. However, if you are new to the game, they do come in handy, especially if you are trying to learn the little idiosyncrasies with the swimming minigame. So once you take out opponent number 3, we should wrap up this event. We should get our 15 gold medals, and if you happen to get best performance, which you may or may not get on this event, it's a little spotty for certain reasons, you should be good for a total of 20 medals. On to event 4, we are going to stick with picking Kunio for this. And then in terms of power-ups, I actually recommend skipping any power-ups on this one, since the gold medal power-up is going to be extra trampolines, and that's going to be rendered completely useless thanks to our ability of using the save system. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure you play through as much of the course as you can and try to keep in mind what the oncoming hazards are going to be, and just utilize what you've learned in combination with the save system in order to get past every single obstacle. You are going to use the poles to get past the gaps, and you use the unicycles to get past the tight ropes. And basically what you are trying to use the save system in order to figure out is how far you should arc your pole vaults, and then how long you should keep the unicycle, and where the tightrope segments end. So just utilize the hell out of the save system and make sure you take advantage of the multiple saves that are given to you in case you do end up in a position where you get stuck. Keep in mind the course is never going to change, so you can also keep what you've learned in mind for other playthroughs, so that is always something to take advantage of. The two things you definitely want to do is you want to make sure you pick up the 2 health potions along the way. There is one where you have to get to the arc of the pole vault just right, and then the second one is going to be on a tight rope that you have to pick up with the unicycle. The second thing is right when you get to the final stretch, you definitely want to make a save right here. So it should be around the 50-second mark. There's going to be a big straightaway before the finish line. Make sure you make a save here, and you can pretty much guarantee yourself the win. Just like the hammer throw golf, what's going to happen next is you are going to watch your opponent run through the same course. If the RNG draws you an opponent that is going to finish the course faster than you, what you want to do is you want to make sure you reload from your previous save and refinish the event. Then when the opponent starts the event the next time, you want to keep hoping that the RNG pulls an opponent that is going to foul out rather than one that's actually going to finish the race and potentially beat you. So just keep taking advantage of that little quirk, and you should be able to pretty much guarantee yourself the win as long as you can finish the entire pole vault course. So we should walk away with the gold medals, so we should have another 15 medals. Unfortunately, we didn't get the best performer for some reason, so we missed out on those 5. Then after that, we are going to start on the last event, which is the judo tournament. Again, this is an event where I don't recommend buying any power-ups since we need to make sure we keep our gold medal lead. I believe you should be able to get away with maybe 1 or 2 power-ups, however you don't need any at all in order to win this. You are definitely going to have to rely on the save system if you go the no power-up route though. So basically what you want to do is you just want to spam the jump kick, so just make sure you move forward and then hit the jump kick, and pretty much you want to make sure you save every time you damage your opponent, and every time you take a hit you want to make sure you reload from your previous previous save. So just like the fighting minigame in Super Awesome Field Day and Nekketsu Fighting Legend, you are definitely going to abuse the save system as frequently as possible. So just make sure you take advantage of your two main attacks, which are going to be the jump kick and then the running shoulder tackle, and you should be able to whittle out any opponent. Keep in mind there's also a timer, so if you want to stick with absolutely turtling, what you can do is you can keep damaging your opponent and then go super defense heavy and then just pretty much run out the clock. So this one's going to take quite a bit of patience if you don't go the power-up route. When you go for a clinch like that, you want to start tapping the B button as quick as you can, and if you win the clinch, you can do a throw, which should do a significant amount of damage. Remember to always make a save if you damage the opponent without having them damage you, and reload from your last save if you take too much damage. There are going to be a total of 3 opponents, so this one's going to be pretty grindy if you are doing the save system method, so make sure you keep in mind of that. Just be really patient and make sure you pick your shots carefully and take advantage of the in-game save system, and make sure you switch over to the B button if you do get into a clinch, and then just mash the hell out of the button, and then hopefully you win all of your clinches. Again, if you don't want to take the offensive, you can just kick people, do a significant amount of damage, and run the clock out and just turtle the entire event, and you should be able to win this a-okay. Now, for this specific achievement, which is to once again just beat the game using the Nekketsu team, it does not require us to place first in every single event. If you built up a solid enough lead at this point by placing first in every single event and also getting a significant amount of the bonus medals, and also not have blown a significant amount of medals buying power-ups, you can actually skip this event. So at this point, if you happen to feel confident that you have a far enough lead in terms of total medals, you can actually just sandbag this event. So to do that, all you have to do is just let the opponent KO you, and that way you can just save your entire time and just skip this event just outright. So just make sure you get yourself KO'd on all 3 fights, and then basically you should move on to the final medal bonuses. And if you happen to have that big enough lead, you should be able to win the tournament and not even play the last event. I do actually recommend playing it just to get a feel for it though, since you do have to be pretty practiced at it to get it down for later achievements, so make sure you keep that in mind. Whatever you decide to do, you should be able to win the tournament once you finish this event. So whatever you decide to do, once you finish up all 3 rounds of judo, which once again you can decide to win all the fights and try to take first place, or you can just sandbag it and just skip the event outright. Once you wrap up the 3rd and final fight, you are going to get the medals for this event. If you happen to win all 3 of your fights, you should get first place and another 15 gold medals, potentially 20 if you happen to also get top performer. After you step down from the podium, you should get the end game awards, which more likely than not, you should get some for Fighting Spirit and MVP and potentially Record Smasher, which should give you anywhere from 20 to 25 additional gold medals, so you can take advantage of those. Then the game is going to tally everyone's total gold medal count. If you happen to still be in the lead, you should take first place. You should get your first achievement, a ridiculous victory, which is just to win the tournament on normal mode on single player. That's going to be for 100 gamer score. And of course, what we came here for, which is to beat the game on single player normal using the Nekketsu team. That's going to be Nekketsu High School Gold Medal, and that's going to be for another 100 gamer score. And that's all there is to it.